Auburn's biggest win this season will be against the Oklahoma Sooners.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up. Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend. It's the last show of the offseason. Game week is just a few days away, and we are so excited. We started this tradition last year. The last show of the offseason, we take you through our season predictions, our official predictions for Auburn football's season. And we'll start things off with the biggest win of the season. Darrell, the biggest win for the Tigers this year will be against the Oklahoma Sooners as they improve to 5-0.
It certainly would be the biggest win of the season if that happened, and if they got to 5-0. And I that's where I'll push back a little bit and don't feel as confident as you that that's going to happen. So no argument for me that if that to the point of that season, if you're predicting Auburn to lose to Georgia and Missouri and Alabama, that Oklahoma would absolutely be the biggest win. I'm not saying that Auburn cannot win that game. I have even gone on social media and gotten, kind of had some back and forth. I believe that it's very, very feasible they can win that game. I wouldn't be shocked if they won that game. I just don't think they will win that game, and for a couple of reasons that we can discuss.
Yeah. To me, I love the matchup of Auburn's defensive front and this improved front seven as far as the pass rush goes against an offensive line in Oklahoma that's rebuilding, against a quarterback that's still going to be getting his feet set, and it's going to be his first road start of his career in conference play. And to me, I think that's a big deal. And obviously having that at Jordan-Hare, we've had this talking point over and over and over again all summer. I think it matters. I think it really, really matters. And with the ascendance, the surge of Auburn's pass rush with Keyron Crawford, the transfer from Arkansas State, and McLeod taking that step forward as an edge rusher. To me, I just think that's the mismatch that's going to win Auburn the game against Oklahoma in Week 5.
I see. I get all that, and and there's very, very good points. I think it's so difficult to start out any college football season unless you're playing, group of 5 schools, your first 3 or 4 games. I think it's very difficult to start off 5-0. I think 5-0 is a challenge. It's just the law of averages. Not saying it can't be done. Auburn's done it in the past, but even some really, really good Auburn teams. I think the 2007 or the 2019 team got to 5 wins before they lost to Florida, I believe. Mm-hmm. But it's very difficult to do. And full disclosure, when we get to our predictions, there's a reason why it's an either-or scenario for me. So I just think there's another one. I think Auburn's going to split. I'm not going to say who. Between 2 key games, they're going to split 2
you can say who, because, Oklahoma and Texas A&M, it seems like those 2 games, despite one being Week 5 and one being the second to last game of the season for Auburn, all offseason, these 2 games have been linked together, where it's like they're both at home. Auburn could win both of them, and if they run the table at home, watch out. But they have been linked together where it's like Auburn's probably going 1-1 in these games. And I think Oklahoma is the one that they win. I think Auburn goes 5-0. And I just think the feeling around the program before they go to Athens, I think it's going to be at a high that we haven't seen in probably close to 10 years. I think it's going to be really, really fun to be an Auburn fan during that stretch. And that's why I think Oklahoma is the biggest win of the season.
So in order for me to get to the path that I'll get to later as far as where Auburn's season will go, I had Oklahoma and Texas A&M as the 2 biggest toss-ups. I mean, when you look up toss-up and the definition of toss-up, these are the ones that I felt like could go either direction. So I had to choose one of the 2 in my mind. I didn't think Auburn was going to win both, and I don't think they're going to lose both, especially to get where I think they'll be at the end of the year. That being said, because of the difficulty to start off 5-0, and because of some things I think gelling and meshing, and Auburn coming off a really tough October by the time they get around to coming back home and playing Louisiana Monroe and Texas A&M, I'm picking them to win the A&M game, and that being the biggest win of the season for Auburn in 2024.
Yeah, and look, if they beat Texas A&M, especially with what will be on the line, because you and I both have a similar outlook for the season, like the goal is 8-4 or better. And if Auburn goes into Texas A&M with 7 wins and they're able to beat Texas A&M and you solidify an 8-win season with a chance to go to a pretty decent bowl game, and we'll see what happens in Tuscaloosa. We'll talk about that later in the show. But to me, it puts a little bit more pressure on Texas A&M or on the game against Texas A&M, because look, Texas A&M, like their schedule, they're going to be in a spot where their record looks really good, where Texas A&M looks really good. And I think Texas A&M's record will look better than the team that they actually are on the field when you look at their schedule. So I'm not going to push back with that. I don't think Auburn wins against Texas A&M in my official predictions, but it sounds like you do. And if they were to beat Texas A&M at that point of the season, Auburn winning a big game against a probably ranked team in November, that would absolutely be a huge win. No question about it.
Texas A&M is getting a lot of love. So is Oklahoma, and as far as these preseason polls are concerned. I was shocked when the AP poll came out and Texas A&M was 20th. Doing a deep dive, I saw we're very, very confident about their defense. They feel very good about their defensive line. They feel very good about Wegman. I just don't know
where the losses are for Texas A&M. I mean, they started against Notre Dame, and we'll see. I mean, Notre Dame is so hard to tell like what actually Notre Dame is, just because everybody loves them so much. They go to Florida. I think they win that. They play Arkansas and Arlington. I think they win that. They host Missouri. They probably win that game, I think. I mean, as the season gets closer and closer, I'm more and more down on Missouri, Mississippi State. They host LSU, South Carolina, and then they go to Auburn. So to me, like I don't really see a whole lot of losses.
I see two. Sure. Before they play Auburn, and that's not a lot. You're right. I mean, you come into that game 8-2? Is that what that would be if A&M only lost to Notre Dame and LSU?
Yeah, yeah. So you're a ranked team coming to Jordan-Hare in November. Yeah,
but then I think they finish 8-4. I think they lose to Auburn. I think they lose to Texas, and they lose to Texas. So it's just amazing how it's different parts of the absolute epitome of a toss-up game, along with Oklahoma. I don't feel comfortable with saying Auburn will win both. I don't feel comfortable saying they would lose both. Mm-hmm. So there's a split there, especially to get where I feel like they'll be for me to get there. So yeah, I think that Auburn will beat Texas A&M, and it's so hard to start the season 5-0. It really, and Oklahoma, by most people, I think, if you look at the polls, is probably considered to be a better football team. 16th in the preseason AP poll, I believe, 4 spots higher than A&M. So a little bit harder win there.
Yeah, Oklahoma's path throughout the entire season is so much tougher than A&M's. And so like preseason rankings versus where they are at the end of the year, that doesn't always say like who's the better team. It's just who won and lost the most games. So that's not always a great way to evaluate it. Look, it was this show a year ago when I said Auburn against Arkansas would be the biggest win of the season. And I was right. Sadly.
Not only were you right, not only that, but the point differential. Holy cow! I mean, it was an absolute. It was over really quickly.
Mm-hmm. So which was awesome. So I think Auburn's biggest win this season is against Oklahoma. Darrell thinks it's the biggest win will be against Texas A&M. What do you think? Let us know. Very, very interested to hear what you guys have to say. How does Auburn fare away from Jordan-Hare? We talk about that next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Darrell, can you imagine doing anything on your phone? Let's just say Game Time. We'll talk about Game Time in a second. Then playing Ultimate College Football Head Coach on your phone.
No, that's a blast. I mean, that's a fun thing to do during the season. Really is.
Yes. In this amazing game and simulation, you step into the shoes of a head coach and you lead the college football program to glory. Can you imagine being the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, Darrell?
Well, there's a lot of people that apparently do and feel like they've got that head coach experience with their opinions.
That's right.
So this is a great opportunity to put that to play, right?
Yes. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. It's completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want. And of course, we do have a special offer for Locked On Auburn listeners. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, no spaces, Locked On CFB inside the game store, and you can receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk, as it will get your team off to a strong start. Download the game by just going to ultimate-cfb.com, or you can look it up in your phone's app store. Once again, thank you to Ultimate College Football Head Coach for sponsoring today's show. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. You can head over to homefieldapparel.com. Before they were a partner with us, both Darrell and I, we had bought multiple things from Home Field. I love the material. It's high quality, and the designs are classic. They're a little vintage and retro. You're going to love everything that you see over at homefieldapparel.com.
Well, and I've got a little see if people that are listening can actually hear the eye roll that Zac Blackerby is about to do. Not only have I bought Home Field products through Auburn, some other schools that I used to pull for and threw it back, little retro stuff.
Used to? Who?
Arizona and Pitt, I've have some Home Field.
You still pull for them, and that's okay.
I pull, but it's a pecking order. Like if they played Auburn, I would hope they would get boat raced. But
who's two, Arizona or Pitt?
Arizona. Okay. Because Auburn, of the basketball. Arizona. But there's some cool. I got some stuff from retro from when I was a kid. That brings back a lot of memories. That's what I grew up with. So I probably, I've got the trifecta of Home Field
there you
stuff.
Go. Yeah, they've got all sorts of stuff. Their Tulane line is really cool. Their Hawaii stuff is really cool. So they've got stuff for more than just Auburn, but of course they've got plenty of Auburn stuff as well. So check them out, homefieldapparel.com. Darrell, the tricky part of Auburn's schedule is obviously October. No home game. They're on the road, 3 road games in a bye week. At Georgia, bye week, at Mizzou, at Kentucky. I think they win one of these games. And to be specific, I think they win in Lexington against Kentucky. I think they drop it against Georgia, Missouri, and then the other road game is obviously at Alabama. I think they go 1-3 on the road this season.
So do I. Absolutely believe that. Have felt that way. Can't even wash it off of me. That it's just like it's stayed with me since the schedule was released. I felt like Auburn, with the way that this schedule is so brutal in October. Remember, there was a stretch last year where we looked at this and we did this exercise, and you had Auburn losing 5 in a row or 4. It was like, this is going to be a gauntlet. And you were right. And
I got roasted for that too.
Yeah, and then Auburn came back out of it and won 3 won 3 in a row and kind of got. But this is where people have to be patient and not panic. The month of October could be brutal, and so if you come out of it 1-2, you're okay. You're okay, especially if you do what Mr. Blackerby says and start off 5-0, you're really okay. Right. And, so it's just going to be very, very tough, not only because you're not playing at home, you're away from Jordan-Hare. There's some tough opponents in there. 2 of the 3 are ranked in the top 10, I believe, or top 11. So
you don't have Auburn getting bowl eligible. You haven't beaten Kentucky?
Yes.
Yeah. So until November 2nd when they beat Vandy. That is when you have them being bowl eligible. I think it happens a week earlier in Lexington. I think that's their 6th win of the season.
Yeah, I absolutely. That's a great point. I think the first week of November, they will win that game and be bowl eligible. And I think that's similar to what happened last year, if I'm not mistaken. They were bowl eligible going into the New Mexico State game. They'd already wrapped up the 6 wins.
Yep, and then they wouldn't win again, which is a bummer. It's an absolute bummer. So we'll see. I will tell you this: the prediction, and we've gone through everything now. So like the game I'm least confident in my pick is Auburn at Missouri. I want to pick Auburn to win that game so bad. I want to pick Auburn to win that game so bad. I love the matchups. I think Missouri, I think they lost more pieces than people like to admit. And I'm going to be honest, like I don't think Missouri is this program that's built to handle pressure and expectations. And I just got a weird feeling about Missouri underachieving this year. And I think this Auburn team coming off of a bye week, I can't talk about this game too much because I'll change my pick, but like Auburn at Missouri is the game that I dislike my pick the most.
I can see that. I've said all along that Missouri, are they going to be a one-off, or is this going to be sustainable? Are they going to be somebody that threatens to win 10 games every year, threatens to get into the college football playoff? I don't know. This team was worse than Auburn was 2 years ago. And I get they won 5 games 2 years ago with Harson's last year, but they fumbled through the end zone to lose to Brian Harsin. Well, and then the next year, they took a gigantic leap. Well, what is that? Is that a one-off, or are they going to come back down to earth this year?
But I don't think it has to be that one or the other, Darrell. Once again, Missouri's schedule, it's wildly easy. Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vandy, Texas A&M. That's their start. Texas A&M was probably a toss-up.
Boston College is not going to be a cakewalk either. People will snicker at that. They got a lot better as the season wore on last year, and they are not a cakewalk.
Maybe. I still think they win it, though.
Oh, I think they win it, but I don't think it's one of those, like, I wouldn't put it as a toss-up, but yeah.
Totally get it. Yeah. They go to UMass, Auburn, Bama, Oklahoma, South Carolina. They can lose to Auburn and still win 10 games.
Their last game is Arkansas, is it not?
Mississippi State, Arkansas. I didn't scroll down. So sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So after Auburn, it's Bama, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. This team can still go 10-2 and lose to Auburn.
It's a great, and I can see that happening. And if they don't lose to Auburn and they only lose to Alabama and Oklahoma, wow. I mean, the schedule sets up rather nicely for them.
Yeah. And so like the whole Missouri to the playoff thing, it's like, I don't think it's necessarily all about Missouri. I think it's just they need to do what they can do. But to say like, is this sustainable? This schedule makes it sustainable for them. It's not even really about having, top 12 talent, which I don't think they do. I don't think they have a top 12 talented roster. But like, I think they're going to get thrashed in Tuscaloosa. I do think it's interesting to think about, like, okay, they go to UMass, host Auburn for homecoming. It's worth noting. It's for homecoming. And then their playoff game is in Tuscaloosa the following week. It just, I can't talk too much more about this game or I'm going to change my pick. But this is just one, like, I don't feel great picking against Auburn with this one. So that's the game on the schedule I hate the most, my pick. I want to hear what yours is in just a moment. Darrell Dapprich, that's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Darrell, can you imagine buying tickets anywhere other than our friends at Game Time?
I absolutely cannot. And apparently people that I know. And
share that message that you sent me.
I got a text message unsolicited this morning from a former player that I coached in baseball and a big-time family friend that said, hey, Coach, just wanted you to know I was in Milwaukee. It was in Wisconsin, decided last minute to get tickets. I went through the Game Time app and got great seats for $16.
Incredible.
$16. And I screenshotted it and sent it to you right away. And I'm like, unsolicited, these are when we talk about keeping receipts, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, Game Time. It makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, the theater, and more. So be sure to check that out. All-in price toggling. This feature, it allows you to see the total up front, which I absolutely love. I hate buying $20 tickets and then they're like $60 at checkout. I hate that. So you also get a view from the seat. It's a great app. Be sure to check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. Darrell, your least favorite pick for you predicting Auburn to go 8-4 is what? Which one do you like the least?
Losing to Oklahoma.
Okay.
I have gone back and forth on that, and I don't feel confident about that at all. It's my least favorite prediction. It's almost leaves me a sour taste in my mouth to let it come out. Yeah. Yep. So Oklahoma losing, Auburn losing,
and I assume for all the reasons that I said earlier.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I could see it where Auburn wins that game. So yeah, that's why that's very difficult for me for that pick.
What's more likely? Auburn goes 8-0 at home or 2-2 on the road?
8-0 at home.
If Auburn goes 8-0 at home there's no way they don't win 9 games, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they go 9. If they go, I've said it all along that if they win that game against Oklahoma and start out 5-0, watch out with the 9-win narrative. Because think about that, Zach. If you go 5-0, all you have to do the rest of the year is go a pedestrian 4-3, which is not a world beater by any stretch. And you've got a couple of gimmies in there in Vanderbilt and La Monroe, I think, that that gets you halfway there to that 4-3. So, you go 5-0. I think the whole narrative changes towards what – you go 5-0 and then go 2-2 on the road. You know what I'm talking about? You snagged that Missouri game because now you're starting to get me to come around thinking Auburn's going to beat Missouri and Kentucky.
You're 7-2.
Yeah.
You're 7-2 hosting Vanderbilt.
Right. No. The scenario I'm talking about is you go 5-0 and you lose to Georgia and you steal one on the road against Missouri. Okay, you are 8-1 going into the Vanderbilt game.
Be insane.
If you're 8-1 going into the Vanderbilt game, people are going to fall out of there. If you are 8-1 going into the Vanderbilt game, if you hold court at home, if you hold court at home and steal one on the road for Missouri for all the reasons that Zach just said that are very valid reasons and not pie in the sky, and you are 8-1 going into the Vanderbilt game, you can start thinking about playoffs.
Yeah, because if you went out at home, you'd be 10-1.
10-2 gets you in. And if if your 2 losses are Georgia and Alabama on the road, you're a playoff team. You're a playoff team.
Now, you need some things to go your way.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
crazier things have happened.
Yeah, I mean,
in Auburn seasons.
And you and I have talked about this before or since then, but they cut a clip of me predicting Auburn to go 8-4 on our Locked On SEC preview, and the other hosts kind of rolled their eyes at it, but I'd almost be disappointed if Auburn.
I can't. I'm going to stick to the topic on this. I'm trying to wrap my head around why, first of all, 8-4 seems to be so pious. Number 2, without calling out names, some of the other hosts that rolled their eyes and laughed and chuckled and audibly had something to say got boat raced by Auburn and has beat Auburn once in the last 14 years, and he knows who he is. The Vanderbilt guy popped up and said the New Mexico State staff is now at Vanderbilt. Like, that's going to make a difference. That's comical. Auburn boat race Vanderbilt. And Florida guy, nice guy, but they'll be lucky to win 5 games. Why do any of those 3 have any right to look their noses down on an 8-4 Auburn? What have any of those 3 done, period? Not only against Auburn, but in a long time. Yeah. That's a joke. I found that comical, the condescending attitude towards you saying 8-4. If they were Georgia, Alabama, or LSU, they'd have a right to be condescending. If you said 10-2, they'd have a right to snicker. I get it. But 8-4 from that group snickering? Delusional with a capital D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was surprised by that reaction. I don't know. Maybe they're just kind of wanting to talk smack. But I mean, it never. Anytime somebody says there's no way Auburn goes 8-4, and you ask them like, okay, well, break that down for me.
It's the laziest answer on earth.
Yeah, New Mexico State. Yeah. It's like, no, well, come on. Like, what's going on? And people have a hard time showing you 5 losses.
I will tell you this, though. There is a narrative that I believe, and I have believed it for a very, very long time, to play devil's advocate and give them a little bit of grace. People remember the last thing they saw. Mm-hmm. And the last thing they saw was Auburn losing 3 games in a row, including giving up 4th and 31. So that's why there was nothing that was positive to springboard them into the offseason. So people that don't do deep dives into Auburn football and don't realize how good this roster got in the offseason, the lazy take is, they lost their last 3 games, including to New Mexico State. Ha, 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 how could you ever go 8-4? Were people laughing at Missouri last year when maybe some of their predictions were to win 8 games after winning 5 the year before?
Yep. And
then look what they did. Again, though, who it's coming from is a little bit comical. If you're LSU, Georgia, or Alabama, you got that trophy case. Yeah,
I get it.
I just unbelievable.
I get it. I All right, so yeah, both of us have Auburn going 8-4. Drop your predictions down below or let us know on social media, or hop over to thebarn.com or thebarnauburn.com. We'll have a thread going up there about it as well. Legitimately curious to hear what everybody has to say. I also want to know, like, what's the game you feel worse about your pick with? Like I said, Missouri, you said Oklahoma. Yeah, I'm just curious to see what that discussion leads to. But Darrell, in the meantime, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410. You can follow me on Instagram, Darrell Dapp. And then Wednesdays and Fridays with you. And guess what? We're getting close. The reaction shows are coming very soon.
Next weekend.
And the next weekend, we'll drop that on Sunday. And I'll be doing some stuff from the press box as well. Dropping some things, doing some articles for Auburn Daily after the game's over and the press conference is over. But some live stuff that I'll be putting out there too, with some recaps quarter by quarter.
Yep, absolutely. So be sure to check all of that out. Thebarnauburn.com. Like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.